basketball to enjoy it, because trust me, I'm clueless and I binged the whole thing and loved it. And it's already been renewed for season 2. So in this show, Kate Hudson, who also executive produces, plays Isla Gordon. She's unexpectedly named team president of the Los Angeles Waves when her brother, played by Justin Theroux, is hit by a scandal. Isla has to prove to all the skeptics, including her family, the board, the players, and the fans, that she is the right person for the job. This comedy comes from the hit-making team of Mindy Kaling, Ike Barinholtz, and David Stassen, and also stars Brenda Song, Drew Tarver, and Scott MacArthur. Please join me in welcoming to the stage executive producer and starring as Isla Gordon, Kate Hudson. Co-creators, co-writers, and executive producers Mindy Kaling and Ike Barinholtz, and serving as showrunner David Stassen.
You thought Billy Bob on Zoom was good.
So before we start talking about the show though, let's just roll a clip first. So many great smackdown moments from you in this show. I love it. So you're an LA girl. Were you a Lakers fan forever? How much did you know about this world that's inspired by Jeannie Buss, president of the Lakers? The best.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you grew up in LA, you kind of have to be a Lakers fan. I mean, you could be a Clippers fan too, but you know, our family's Lakers. So yeah, I mean, I was never a big basketball fan. I grew up with Baron Davis. We were in the same grade in high school, and he went to go play pro. So I feel like I learned a lot about basketball from him. But other than that, I was always a football girl. So this was a fun new world to get into, and thanks to Stassen, who loves basketball, and Brenda Song. I feel like I really got like I have people who can school me and give me some tips.
Did you meet Jeannie?
Oh yeah, I've known Jeannie. When I was 14, we were big Kings family. They're actually playing right now, the Kings. But yeah, it was the golden era, like the Gretzky era of Los Angeles Kings, and Jeannie ran the Forum Club, and I was a very naughty teenager. And I liked going into the Forum Club and seeing if I could get drinks, but this was when I was a little bit older. And she would always make sure that, you know, she always kept a watchful eye on me. And the other day she actually showed me all these pictures she has of me at like 18. And I was like, where did you get these pictures? She's like, full-on blackmail. But yes, I've known Jeannie, you know, more like that for years.
Mindy, tell us about how you lit on this story to tell as a kind of comedic take on LA life. And also, you know, I remember seeing you, I think it was at the Golden Globes this year, and you were talking about what a treat it was to work with Kate on this show. So can you speak to those things a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Jeannie Buss, she approached me about doing a show about her life in the front office of the Lakers. Her and Linda Rambis, the great Linda Rambis, her partner in crime, loved The Office, and they were a fan of my shows after that, and they thought, we would love to see a version of that. And what's great about them as collaborators, you know, that Dave and Ike have realized in working with them, is that there's no limits, you know, in a comedy like this, which is there's like a lot of wild stuff in it. They don't give us parameters, and they're not scared about what we might do, which if someone was doing a show loosely based or loosely inspired on me, I'd be pretty protective, which isn't good for comedy. And so they've been such great partners in this. And then I come from a family that loves basketball. I grew up in Boston. My dad is a huge Celtics fan. Can't say that too loudly in this room.
Fuck Boston.
And
No,
I know, but like,
sorry, back on set.
you know, and even just like Larry Bird and, you know, it's like Hondo Havlicek, JoJo White, like you love the Celtics. I grew up loving the sport. And when I worked in the Mindy Project, these two guys couldn't shut up about the Bulls. They're huge Chicago Bulls fans. And so when Jeannie had approached me and I wanted to do the show, you know, they were my first choices to work on the project. And they've been terrible. And we've been saddled with them on this panel. If you could just crop them out in a photo of just the three of us, that'd be great.
This seems like a good time to ask you guys how you have such a lovely collaboration together after all this time working in collaboration on the Mindy project, etc. It seems like you guys have a shorthand. So Ike, perhaps you could speak to how the collaboration works.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have always loved each other. I think we
Hesitated. We've always loved you.
Well, I'm trying to think of a polite way to say we have the same stupid sense of humor.
Yes.
We laugh at you know, people being haughty and kind of dumb and inappropriate, and I think we have a very similar comedic sensibility. Dave and I are basically the same person, so it's really, you know, Mindy was the new thing to, you know, join our sensibility, and it's very similar.
We kind of share a brain.
There's no distinction between the two of us.
Well, they grew up together.
Like
in
Tweedledee and
Chicago.
Tweedledum.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly dumb. But we hadn't worked with Mindy since the Mindy Project, and we literally were always like, we miss Mindy, we miss writing with Mindy and breaking stories with her and stuff. And so when she came around with this, our first question was, let's talk money. What are we looking at financially? Write down on a piece
You're
of
both
paper
motivated
what
a
we're
lot
looking at.
by how lucrative something could be.
Yeah,
Or not.
yeah. I'm a businessman first, writer second. And if it's not a good deal, I walk. But it was, I guess.
Should we get into our deal?
Wait, and you asked before what you said before, and I think we can all talk about this, but it's like been working with Kate, which no, we did, and that's like what it is, and we feel so lucky to be able to work with Kate. I mean, I've written for Steve Carell, Emma Thompson, and it's so nice to work with someone who can do comedy and drama. And she is just as compelling doing this like very complicated basketball speak about an intense deal as she is walking into a glass wall, I think, which she did multiple times.
Yes.
It was maybe her favorite thing to do. She ended up being the one pitching it extra. Some days.
You did make her do that quite a few times.
They were very worried about me when I was doing it too. I was like, guys, I got this.
But Dave, I wanted to ask you actually, there is something about this show that is universally compelling. As I say, like I'm not from this country, I'm not a basketball person, and yet none of that mattered. So tell me about some of the ways you tackled getting that balance so that you don't need to be a sports fan.
Well, I think we were drawn to the fact that it was just going to be this powerful family that ran a really cool company, a really cool family business, but we spent a lot of time, you know, talking about how the siblings were going to be different and how they were going to bounce off each other and mostly not get along. But at the end of the day, you knew they were going to love each other, and that sounds cliched, but we got really lucky that Kate and Scott MacArthur and Drew Tarver and Justin Theroux and Fabrizio, that they all ended up having this great dynamic. And so it was about, you know, I think it was just so attractive of us having this crazy dysfunctional family that was just keeping this really cool, sleek-looking business on the surface looking great, but you know, underneath it all, it was just constant, you know, problems and fighting and crises that they had to figure out.
And at the head of it is this kind of strong woman who's thrown into this world, and I think that's something we like to write to, and it makes it more fun and real.
I really love that Isla is a woman in a man's world, but she doesn't have to act like a man to succeed. She just acts like herself, because it turns out she knew a ton about basketball, but no one was listening. And I love that.
Is it controversial to say that? I feel like women don't act like men to succeed anymore. I think that's maybe part of what's fun about playing a part like this is like, there's like, no, we're kind of past the working girl era of that discovery. It's like now we're just sort of, for me, it's all more about getting validation from my brothers, who I want them to see that more of the family dynamic, that I can do what our dad did. And I love too, like this, like we talk about this all the time, like this sort of sexiness of like a woman in this world that is so testosterone filled. You can't, I mean, it's just, there's nothing more different than a woman walking into a man's locker room than anything. It's like, do I belong there? And I think those things really play great in comedy and for this, for sure.
How much did you guys, sorry, go.
Well, no, I was gonna say one other thing, which is that when they were talking about kind of like the family dynamic and what that is, it's like one of the great things about reading the scripts for the first time was that they're so on the page. The way that it could, now that we've done it, it couldn't be anybody else, but they were so well defined on the page that when we got into character, it's like we all knew our assignment. We were all very aware of what our assignment was when we were there, and then, so it felt seamless.
When you guys were, you're working so much with Brenda Song as your chief of staff, right? And I have to assume that dynamic is somewhat loosely based on Jeannie and Linda's dynamic. So how much back and forth did you have about those kind of stories and getting it right and making your own version of it?
I mean, we didn't really talk. I mean, the thing that Mindy was saying was Jeannie was they were really hands off, which was really surprising. I think we talked to them, we hung out with them, we would laugh about certain experiences that they had, and but they really were like, go, have fun, play.
We love the dynamic between Jeannie and Linda, how Linda kind of acts as sometimes her assassin, sometimes her muscle, but just at the end of the day, like her best friend who has her back. And that's a really fun dynamic, and it just is really juicy for stories. So we were so lucky to get Brenda Song, who's just such an amazing actor, and it's an amazing dynamic, and we're really looking forward to kind of digging deeper into it in season 2.
What's unique about Brenda is she's so tiny and so tough, and something that she has in common with Kate, and they're very different performers, is they both have to say some really rough things in the show, and they're underdogs and people push them around. And so they have to stand up for themselves. And what's a delight as writers is people who can say tough things and you're still in their corner. We've all been on the shows where we've written for characters who have to say things that are not, quote unquote, unlikable, and it doesn't come off great. It's sunk series that I've tried to get on the air, and then to have someone do it and it's still so palatable, it's like they're stars. And so that's been wonderful working with those two actresses.
Brenda also has this ability to talk so fast and with such clarity, and I remember I would say, how would you say this? And she would just do it really fast. I'm like, oh my God. She was so wonderful. We also both grew up with brothers, so it was like, again, like being in this room with a bunch of boys and all of that kind of how they just take the piss was really like something that we were very comfortable with, which was also nice for us to have that too, that we were both like, that we had that relatability with each other too. It's like growing up with boys is hard.
I'll second that. So before I let you go, I do want to ask a little hint about season 2. We left it on something of a romantic cliffhanger for Isla. I don't want to spoil the specifics for anyone that hasn't seen the whole thing yet. But can you hint as to what might be in the future? Any?
Without saying, I mean, everyone, all the characters that people have responded to and seem to love so far are coming back in some shape or form for some amount of episodes. So no one's gonna be missing.
How's that for a teaser?
That's actually pretty good, because that tells me that Jay Ellis is coming back.
We can't speak to any of that,
Yeah,
right?
we're
We don't
like
know.
right now in the nitty gritty of kind of breaking the season and
Huge
stuff.
Jay Ellis fans. He was so winning on the show.
Oh my God.
Love Max Greenfield. Justin Thoreau, who we haven't talked about, is so funny
Incredible.
on the show.
Best.
And something about him, if we can just say it, Justin and his contribution is he is himself a very accomplished comedy writer. And so when someone that good looking is also a successful comedy writer, I would say that doesn't engender good feelings.
So
No, people hate me.
People hate you.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I get it.
But he came onto set and he improvised and we liked it.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, improvising on a comedy show with three people who've worked together and spent hours and hours making the scripts, you know. And he would improvise and we were like, it's good.
Well, he comes in and he improvises in character, which is already ahead of what most improvisers do, but he's improvising on story. He understands where the story's going, understands that any kind of superfluous stuff will just get cut in editing, so just to keep the improvs focused, and so much stuff that he gave us is on the show right now. He's a wonderful guy. He's here, Justin, stand up. You not here? No?
Well, I can't wait to see more of this show in season 2.
I loved you get so many different, it's the like first time I've had such a wide scope of people who've seen the show, from like 13-year-olds to like someone's 97-year-old grandmother, and they all have a different feeling about my love life, which I'm sort of like, this is going to make it really hard in the writer's room to kind of explore whatever that is. But that is the fun thing about this show, is that it does hit sort of all of the different demographics, and you know, everybody has a different relationship to different things.
There is something for everyone. I love this show. I'm so excited for the second season. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
you.